Hey, Composing Gloves here. This is the 8th video in the Massive from the Ground Up tutorial series, and we're going to be talking about position modulation today. Now, position modulation is a modulation type that is unique to Massive. So for once, no other plugins have anything on Massive for this one. Like, Massive owns this one. I'm not sure if Serum has this option, but if there was any other plugin that would, it would have to be Serum, to my knowledge. So the way this works is you've got wavetables. That's why it would have to be Serum. Is you have these wavetables that each have a whole bunch of waveforms in them, as we discussed. And what happens is this position modulation tab selects those waveforms and scrolls through them using a sine wave. So the rate or you choose to pick your sine wave will be the rate that this happens to be at. Now the idea was to create general texture, and at least that's the idea they say in their manual, is to create general texture like bow sounds and just make overall edginess to a sound, like give it a bit more oomph. So if we have like a sound that's like this, whatever this waveform is, let me turn the intensity off, and then we were to position modulate it, there you have it. So it's not that noticeable, but it's there. It's like an edge that wasn't there before. And if you were to change the pitch, so if we kept it at 0 though, and the more it differs, the more waveforms that exist in this wavetable position, and more it differs from a sine wave, the bigger the result will be. Like, that's a pretty dramatic difference. So now we're going to get into what it is doing exactly. So the best way I've found to do this, first we'll start with the sine and square wave. So we have a sine wave, okay, and we have this square wave. Okay, we're going to go down in pitch. Now, all these other things, all the buttons, this is the wet dry, same as before, all the way on all processed signal. Everything else is just some variant of processed and unprocessed signal. And pitch is the same idea. It's a ratio tab, transposing whatever hertz value you pick up to the proper value. And you can modulate the things. All right, so we're going to start with a square and a sine. So I showed you the waveforms. So we have it. There's our square wave. And as I turn the position on, this will start to scroll ever so slowly between the waveforms, because there's only 2 in this particular wavetable. And I'm going to go really slow down. Oh, and I'm going to turn the position on. So you can see some of the upper frequency harmonic being introduced. And you can see it start to move through the waveform. I'm going to choose a lower note. So now you can see it's just oscillating between the 2 forms, the sine wave and the square wave. Okay, so that's easy enough to understand. It's moving between these 2 according to the ratio that you set here, and whatever value you pick will be the speed. So if you were to take it really slow on this, but pick a higher note, like an F, like a really high F or something, it still sounds high, and it sounds much quicker even though it's slow. Now if you were to turn the pitch modulation up, then it would be like really fast, or even just turn it normal. It's hardly even noticeable. So as you can see, it does some interesting things. So now we're going to talk about what happens when you go up. And in order to do this, I am going to turn it both of ends of our wavetable position to a sine wave using the spectrum mode. So we have sine wave on this end and a louder sine wave on the other. That's important, okay? If they were the same value, this wouldn't do anything. So we're going to start off, we're going to put it on the lower sine wave, and as we turn the pitch up, you'll see it move through the velocity change and get slightly louder. And turn the position on again. and you can see it sort of start to move. Let me make that bigger. You could see it doing its little wiggle dance. And now it's definitely, you can totally see it moving through the louder sine waves being scrolled through now. As we make it faster though, we start getting this upper frequency content. And now we have a whole bunch of it. And my question has been, where the heck is this high frequency stuff coming from if we have a sine wave on this one and a sine wave on this one with no upper frequency content in either of them? And I have discovered what I believe to be the answer. The reason the upper frequency content exists when you start going faster is because as you go from this slower waveform to a higher waveform, the larger waveform, the louder one, as it's scrolling back and forth between this, it starts going so fast. Because before, when you go down, it goes slower. It just gets louder. It just kind of pulsates. It's not going any faster, so no additional waves are generated. But if you were to take that long pulsing motion that's going through the wave and make one giant wave. So imagine like taking that, you saw it move through the wave. Now imagine how huge that waveform would be. One cycle would be like this big. Imagine my mouse drawing the waveform. It would be huge, right? But if we start going the other way, up in pitch, that waveform becomes much smaller. It gets so small, in fact, and so fast that it starts generating its own high harmonics as it moves through the waveform. And the reason it only appears on the ends is because that's where the difference, the biggest difference from the two are. So if you were to turn the position off, there's the small one, there's the big one. This doesn't change very much, zero crossing point, but the peak to peak value changes substantially. And so that difference gets filled in by the high harmonics because of how fast that wave is moving through it. It actually creates its own audible tone, its own series of high harmonics in the waveform, even though neither waveform have that high harmonic content in it. And that's why that looks filled in. It's the difference between the two. So that's position modulation. Really, really interesting. Again, used generally for creating just a higher edge to your sound, giving it an extra timbre, and creating like noise, more realistic bow sounds if you're making strings. Or they had another example, a blow sound. If like you were trying to make a flute, this could create, the position knob could create a blow sound. And the ratios are really important, as you saw. All right, so that's position modulation. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out my Facebook, Pose Gloves, website, music. You know the dealio. And have a blessed day.